Yes, prediction.
Pain.
On the script. It's on the script.
We run the clock. Super 16 is the cream of the crop. College football time of year don't stop.
You're adding this guy.
Just another go dome with the courage, heart, skill, and will. Bringing you the best 16. Serving up a plate for the football fiends. Breaking the best 16 college teams. Football fans, it's the show with your dreams.
Ain't no bias, Chris Zorich breaking truth. Traded in the golden helmet in the past for a suit. With the tape, never lies. College ball, he's a stoop. Breaking the top 16, not the top 32.
I don't mean to cut you off like a Zorich jersey, but you ain't really grinding unless the jersey dirty. Hit the running back like a Mack truck behind the 30-yard line. It's game time. My team riding off the sideline.
You look at Chris like this with a fact checklist, going over college teams like a big scientist. Steve streaking from his head like in his playing days. Super 16 polls on the show straight away.
It's the FBS, the best of the best from the ACC to the SEC. Pac-12, Big Ten, Mountain West, Sun Belt, and the Big 12. Open your eyelids, who the best like Cali? Super 16 is the cream of the crop. College football time of year don't stop. With Christopher Zorich, just another go dome with the courage, heart, skill, and will. Bringing you the best 16. Serving up a plate for the football fiends. Breaking the best 16 college teams. Football fans, it's the show of your dreams.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to, what is this, like week 15, 16, 17? I'm not exactly sure, but the Super 16 Bowl show as opposed to the Poll show. This is our second bowl. Wow, I can't even say it. This is our second Bowl show, and what it's going to be, actually, there's going to be one more that's going to take place on January 10th when we talk about the pregame for the national championship and also the post game. So please stay tuned for that on January 10th. Before we get started, because we got a whole bunch of stuff to talk about. We got a bunch of bowl games to talk about. We got the issue of the transfer portal. We got to talk about the national championship game, the semifinals. And that game in Arizona called the Fiesta Bowl. We have to talk about that too as well. Also opting out to, but before we get into that, let's please bring in DDP, aka Ottochian, to talk about some success the Bears may have had.
Success will happen when, Matt Nagy has been kicked to the curb. That's the success, hopefully. And with the Chicago Bears, as you know, Chris, will they get it right? Will they get it right?
Let's see.
How will they do it? Will they also get rid of Pace and make a clean cut and start this process with a young quarterback and a football team with a clean slate, with a new GM, new football president of operations? How are they going to handle
that? Is a big overhaul.
Yeah, this is scary for George and Ted, because George and Ted always look outside of their ownership for help. Who's going to help them? Our fear is that they're so scared that they continue with Ryan Pace, who I thought it was kind of ironic that Mike Glennon, who he paid upwards of $45 million, $18 million guaranteed, was playing on the Giants. He probably couldn't play on the little Giants, even though his neck is taller than everybody out there. He could. And, the whole story of Pace and the quarterbacks and the moves and everything, there's so much crap that outweighs the positive that Ryan Pace, the coaches he's hired, the quarterbacks and the coordinators and everything that he has collaborated with and regressed. What corporate slogan are they going to come up with next to try to keep Ryan Pace? And I know my partner at TTNL is always talking about, Arlington Heights, they want to keep Ryan, help get, well, somebody else can figure out Arlington Heights
You think,
when you're
right,
when you're a $1 billion organization. I just feel like Pace, Nagy, that they came in together, they should go out together.
There you go.
Right out,
Okay,
right out to the sunset.
But here's the question:
Yes.
If not Nagy, then who?
Well, that's the thing. I really believe before the coach is hired. Everybody knows my number one guy, obviously, and this is what I said on BHL. I know you didn't get to see it because I was shouting you out and throwing you bouquets, and you didn't even text me.
I was driving back from the game. I am so sorry. Sorry.
But I said, what Lady Bear, Jim Harbaugh is my number one guy. And I think because it's his dream job, because he understands what the organization of the Chicago Bears have been,
Sure.
because he's had issues in the past with the 49ers, and that broke up that marriage. He has that firm line stance of knowing this is what's going to win. And that's the most important, not the second round pick we whiffed on. Yeah, we paid him. You move on from those guys. My uncle, Sam Rutigliano, was with the Browns. They drafted a kid in the second round. The first day of OTAs, he's like, I don't know what this GM saw in him, but he ain't going to make this football team. By the time he gave him the shot into camp, 2 weeks into camp, they cut the second round pick. He put his foot down, but he went out there and said, what are we going to do? Pretend like this guy's good?
Right.
It's always going to unveil itself. And I'm sure you've been around your former teammate who got, not Eric Kramer, maybe it was Shane Matthews, somebody, I can't remember who it was like, I knew right away Cade McNown couldn't play. It's like the first few weeks you were just like, all right, he's just not going to be able to be an NFL quarterback. That kind of reality is what the Bears need. And it goes back to everything we're saying, the performance over politics. That's where this network stands. Once you get there, you know, you played for Lou Holtz. He played the best guys. There's no doubt in my mind. And when he found somebody that maybe worked his way up to being the best, he offered them a scholarship and they became the best.
Sure.
That's what football's about. In Chicago, it's about CYA, cover your ass. And that can't win championships. Bill Belichick, he'll cut a first round pick because he's now everyone's like, well, because he has all these championships, he could do that. No, that is what the Parcells tree and that kind of embodiment was. And until the Chicago Bears get somebody, and I think Jim Harbaugh checks off those boxes, and don't give me how they performed against Georgia. You and I talked about Georgia all year long, all year. Like, this defense is outstanding, right? Every team is going to have a bad day. Maybe they had a bad day. They weren't expecting a street fight from Alabama, and all of a sudden the Georgia narrative kind of went this way, like, Georgia got humbled by Alabama and was ready for a street fight from Michigan. And I would think every one of those players on defense is going to be in the NFL. Every player on the Georgia D. I'm dead serious. And that's sometimes happens. That's not a coach. You look at Michigan versus them, it was like, okay, Georgia, they just dominated. And there's none. A coach could have done. Belichick, no one could have saved that, in my opinion. You know, irregardless of that, I was just saying, for the troll, you forget that Jim Harbaugh took an unranked team in the preseason all the way,
which had never been done before.
Which never had been done. He beat Ohio State, got that demon off his back. He did things this year that show.
Took a pay cut.
Gave all that bonus money to all these people because of COVID.
Right.
This is a class act. He is a maniacal guy.
He's weird. He's quirky. He's weird.
He's quirky. I like weird. I don't like weird when it's soft. I like tough weird.
Sure.
Mark Trestman was weird, but he was soft. I need tough weird. So listen, you could throw all the stats you want at me. The tape that never lies to me. Jim Harbaugh checks a bunch of boxes. Is Jim Harbaugh to you an upgrade over Matt Nagy?
That's so obvious. Of course.
Exactly.
Of course.
Exactly, Chris. So if you get that bump to what I've always said, especially in the NFL, the head coach is the most important because he's got to be able to control the locker room, have a plan, get great coordinators and coaches surrounding him. And I think in Chicago, whether people want to believe it or not, I really do believe that you have to be able to run the football and have a power.
It's Chicago, of course.
It's Chicago. It's not even, I'm not even being meatballish when I say it. I'm just saying it's in the city, it's in the culture,
the DNA. Absolutely.
It's
absolutely.
in that, exactly, the DNA. So somebody that's coming in, we can't, hire June Jones to run the run and shoot in Chicago. It's just everything you've tried to do has failed with this organization. So maybe it's time to go back to your roots and talk to some of these Bears like yourself and figure out who needs to be put in a position to help you find the right people. Stop going to Ernie Accorsi and whoever else you're going to, an outside firm to hire Jerry Angelo. That stuff that you really need to say, we're going to sit down with the best of the best, whether it be Peyton Manning. I've talked about Olin Kreutz. I've talked about, Gary Fensick. You're going to go, Drew Brees, get him in here. People that you respect, that have played the game, know people, and you have to be able to, as an ownership, hear the hard truths. And I know Chris Ballard. Yeah, Chris Ballard came in there and gave him some hard truths, and they were soft. George and Ted couldn't handle those truths. They couldn't do that. So now they failed every time they couldn't handle those truths. If you're going to hire a bunch of yes men, you're going to lose. Like, me and Olin Kreutz don't agree on the offensive line. I heard what he was saying about Tevin Jenkins and get the best left tackle, and Mustafer's a good center. I don't agree with him. That doesn't take away my want for him to be the president to find the football people.
Right.
Me and him could debate, and that'll be healthy for the Chicago Bears, because at the end of the day, you're going to get the best possible people in the building. That's the most important thing.
And then, but here's the thing: are they going to be willing to pay?
They have
that's
to.
The huge issue. Well, okay, but they have to, but they haven't. I mean, historically, think about John Fox, and we've talked about this before.
Yeah,
is the only. Well, I think in like the last at least 50 years that the last head coach they actually hired who had NFL head coaching experience.
Right. Listen, Matt Nagy never was a head coach on any level, not Pop Warner High School, never. To put him in that position, I was saying it. I was his biggest critic right off the rip. In fact, I was the only one criticizing this guy in the 12-4 campaign, because I was watching the tape and seeing that they didn't know what they were doing when it came to running the football or pass protection. All of that stuff unveils truth. That being said, yeah, you're right. And listen, that was an Ernie Accorsi, because apparently Ryan Pace wanted to hire Dan Quinn, who was a coach of mine at Hofstra.
Okay.
Coach Quinn now is the defensive coordinator with the Cowboys. Apparently Ryan wanted to hire him. Accorsi and company, George and Ted, who aren't involved in football, pushed for John Fox to clean up the locker room, because you had Brandon Marshall. You had all that drama with Jay Cutler, Marshall, Alshon Jeffrey, if you look back on it. So they wanted this guy to come in here, and we know the story. So to me, Chris, it's really about getting the right person up top.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Absolutely.
George and Ted have to go stand on the sidelines and become cheerleaders. Ted needs to go and retire, go down south, play golf, get away. Get away. I don't want to hear Virginia's mad again. You know what I'm saying?
She's very pissed off.
Yeah, she's pissed off. Shane played that clip perfectly to show you. First, it was Virginia's pissed off, and Ted's over there side eyeing, agreeing with. It's like you can't. It's a Saturday Night Live skit. It's seriously. It's like Comedy Central owns the football team, and here's Flanders and Milhouse grown up from The Simpsons, and they're running it into the ground. And all of these fans deserve better. So hire me to be I'll find the GM for you that answer these questions for me. Boom, boom, boom. They can't go, let's find the next up and coming play caller. Let's find that. That doesn't work.
For years.
Is he a leader of men? Can he be a head coach? What's his personality like? You had Bruce Arians in the goddamn building. You let him go because you wanted a Canadian Football League guy that wrote a book on leadership. Oh, you got me started. Like the Ditkas of the world, your grandpa hired Ditka.
Right.
Because he knew he was no nonsense. See this, buddy? That's your IQ. That's what Chicago needs. Somebody. And Rex Ryan fits that bill. Jim Harbaugh, Mike Tomlin. Hopefully the Browns beat the Steelers tonight. So there's maybe the Steelers move on. For Tomlin would be the perfect guy in Chicago. You have to have a truth serum coach that's going to go out there and say, hey, we're done playing soft. You know, I want to say a different word. It's a family show. We're done being soft. We are going to go out there. We're going to build around Justin Fields. We're going to utilize our tight ends. We're going to get rid of anybody that's loafing. Let's watch tape for 5 weeks. Allen Robinson, are you kidding me? Eddie Jackson, come in my office. Let's talk about these 42 plays where you decided not to tackle. Let's talk about those. Forget about your should have been touchdowns that you're crying about. Let's talk about making tackles as a safety. Right. That's important. That's it. Did Todd Light get scared coming up in the alley? No. He didn't give a crap. Did Mike Brown get scared? Christ, what was his name? John Mangum for all 185 pounds of him.
Yes,
remember him? He wasn't afraid to tackle. We got guys out there soft. It's the anti-Chicago in a year where, you know, Robert Quinn breaks Richard Dent's sack record.
Sure.
You got things here to build on. This team has a lot of talent, and they have some under-the-radar talent. And a coach like Nagy, last point, showing his true soft colors by starting a Fetty last week because they're going against Seattle, his former team, instead of developing that rookie. And then this week, you're starting the old man, 40-year-old left tackle instead of developing Tevin Jenkins here at left tackle. And getting Justin Fields out there. Those types of things are showcased that you're sabotaging the Chicago Bears and their future to stroke your ego. And that stuff shouldn't happen. You're soft because you should have fired the guy last season. Instead, you came out with the collaboration. And you've then neglected this football team, this fan base, for 2 extra years. That's right, Sherry. Soft as puppy. You know what?
Puppy poop. I love it. I love it.
I don't say poop, though. She changed my quote.
Oh, I guess. Okay. Right. Fair enough. Fair enough.
There's my 19-minute rant almost.
I didn't. Oh, watch out.
We went crazy there, right?
Well, hopefully, did you have a chance to get those photos I sent?
Oh, yeah, Chris.
All right. So
I got them all rocking and ready.
We can end on a couple positive things. So thanks to the Chicago Bears, the same team that you just dogged, for allowing me to hang out with some fans this week for the last game. Yes. I was fortunate enough to see and sign some autographs. I saw some good friends. Also saw a woman who actually went to Oklahoma State. We actually talked about the Bears game for a little bit, or excuse me, the ND game. And there's my wonderful wife.
Look at Chris and his wife.
Me, yes.
Out kicking his coverage there.
Way out kicking my coverage. Like,
look at that.
You have no idea.
The field is, the punt is kicked right there.
You have no idea. Now, here's the scary thing. I'm not sure what part of the game that was, but that's about how many fans are there. One, it was freezing. And two, they were like, come on,
empty
dude, really?
stadium.
Yes. That was tough, man. That was
NFL
tough.
was trying to keep pictures tight, like they were full.
Yes.
I was like, they're doing a pretty good job because my buddy's sending me pics. I'm like, this looks empty.
But, I'll tell you what is interesting. And, you talk about all the folks who are behind kind of putting together a game, right? And so you're talking about the vendors, the folks selling the beer, folks selling the hot chocolate, the parking attendants. I mean, these are folks who, this is their job. And although it only lasts 16 weeks, there's a whole bunch of people out there that are getting, that are employed because of the Chicago Bears. So let's kind of give a huge shout out to those folks. We had a great time.
My boy, Mike. Section 106.
Thank you, Bullets. Appreciate that. I will tell my wife that.
My boy Mike, section 106.
Uh-oh.
Always bringing that beer to the fans, bro.
Hey.
Bring that. Give me that popcorn. They don't do
frozen.
Garrett's pop.
I think I think that might be a little too messy.
They do the other pop. What is it? Something nuts and pop? What is it?
Oh, I don't know.
Cherie knows what it is. She'll type it in there. It's like something corn and nuts on Fifth, some shit. Pardon my language. Pardon my language, sir.
Okay, shame. We haven't been on in a while. That's why.
Why. It's like there's a special. They don't use nuts on Clark.
There we go.
There it is. Nuts on Clark.
Which is interesting because the stadium is considered kind of the South, so it's kind of interesting because Nuts on Clark is way up north.
Really?
Yes.
Well, Garrett's is the top for me. My wife will tell you. She'll just wants to go to Chicago for Garrett's.
Just for that.
Yeah.
Forget about the game. Look, you know what? You go to the game. I'm going to Garrett's.
Chris, before we left on the flight, she's like, we got to take a quick trip to Garrett's. She's looking on her phone. It's like, it's only 2 blocks away. We walked. We got in when it opened. Serious? Fresh pop. All of a sudden, the line started building after we got in. She's like, I told you.
Wow.
We were bringing stuff on the plane, eating, passing popcorn everywhere to everybody.
And of course, that smell, I'm trying to smell on the airplane. Everybody.
Oh my God. Matt knows the cheese and caramel mix is like,
it's like crack. Man.
It is.
We talked about it before.
It's the most addictive thing I've ever had.
It is.
I'm like, nah, don't want any more. But you're still eating.
It was so cool because as a little kid, I was growing up, and me and my buddies would go downtown to go to the show, and we would always stop at Garrett's. And at that point, we couldn't really afford anything, but they used to sell them in bags, and they used to have the price on there like $1.50 or 75 cents or $3, whatever. So we'd like, can I get the 75-cent caramel, and then you get more cheese because the caramel is kind of sweet. It'll take over the whole cheese.
Oh, you have a strategy.
Hey, as a shorty, you have to. You only had like $8, right? You had to make that thing last.
They do have good buttered popcorn as well. Hit the like button and subscribe. Yeah, if you haven't gotten to Chicago or you plan on going, that is a must.
Actually, I know it's kind of a shameless plug for Garrett, but I'm sure they actually ship it as well.
Yeah, I'm sure if
you go to garrettspopcorn.com, they will be able to send you some crack, and it is worth it. It is.
That's a great Valentine's present for my wife right there. There
you go.
Call. She'll be surprised.
There you go. All right, man. We got a lot to talk about.
Yes, we do.
We have a ton to talk about. So I'm not going to cover every bowl game because there were a lot.
So many bowls.
And the one thing I do want to address, though, is that there's a little controversy because a lot of folks are saying, hey, there are too many bowls, right? And the folks who are saying that, like, really aren't thinking about kind of the smaller schools because, yes, you're going to have your Gator, your Orange, your Cotton, all those the huge bowls. But you have other bowls that are smaller and provide great opportunities for folks. Now, the thing I don't like is that at a minimum, they're saying, hey, you know what? If you're 6-6, you can go. Okay, I mean, the whole idea is a bowl is supposed to be a reward. And so, but here's the thing, though. The reason why the NCAA is allowing a 6-6 team to go is because there's so many damn bowls. That's the thing, right? So that they can't fill them with a bunch of 5 and 7s, 7 and 5s, because there aren't that many, right? So then we're going to have to go down one step lower and get some 6-6 folks. So that's where I have some issue with, because it's supposed to be a reward for doing well during that season, and just breaking even is like kissing your sister, right? I'm just saying.
Pretty much. Speaking of, let me surprise you. Let me surprise you with this.
Okay.
Oh, kissing cousins, maybe. The officials in this game. This game was probably one of the most exciting for me to watch.
Yeah, I agree.
Purdue, Tennessee was a shootout.
Yes.
And then it comes down to that fourth down play, Chris, and we haven't talked about it, me and you. So what did you think there before I even expressed my opinion there? Did you think the Tennessee running back got in? Absolutely.
And if you see it, I mean, he's laying up on somebody. You really can't see his left. Anyway, you really couldn't see one of the, even if his left knee went down, but he was on top of somebody and he had just put the ball over. Somebody knocked it out, but it was enough time, but they blew the whistle. It was like, well, wait a minute. Let's go back to, and even some of the announcers, and I'm not sure who announced it, but the announcers were like, yeah, it's a touchdown. Let's go ahead. And it turned out it wasn't.
I couldn't believe that they did not give him that touchdown. I felt bad for Tennessee. You know, you're in overtime here. You're reaching for the thing. And I know the offensive lineman kind of grabbed him to help pull him.
Right.
But because of the rules now, there's no rule that says he can't do that based on these rugby scrums that we see every game now. And I just don't get how they didn't get that right. It just baffles me, even on review. Were they trying to say that the whistle impeded the whole thing? Because the kid reached the ball over.
Right.
So the whistle would have to be blown after the ball was fumbled.
Right. And I think they were saying they really couldn't see his leg in the back. And they're saying that may have touched. But here's the problem, though. I would think that in situations like that, let's have somebody in New York watching all the bowl games, right? Let's have 4 retired refs.
Right.
Because and here's the issue is that, you know, I mean, teams work so hard to get to bowl games. And when it's decided on a bad call, it's really not fair to anyone, right? I mean, it's not fair to the opposing team. It's not fair to the team that actually it happens to. So there should be kind of this these officials that are overseeing it. But you and I have talked about that before. Oftentimes, these older guys, all their buddies are refs, all their buddies are umpires. I mean, they've been doing this for 30 years. So they don't want to make their boys look bad, right? So then they're going to say, okay, well, yeah, I agree with so-and-so. And I still think that's fair.
I totally agree with you. There definitely
Thank you, Matt.
Definitely needs to be some sort of unbiased official that's the head, or if each bowl game has somebody stationed to oversee these kind of critical calls. It's unfortunate that that's how that game ended.
Sure. And I mean, as we're talking about bowls, I mean, I'd love to hear, does anyone have a favorite? You know, folks are watching.
Was there a favorite bowl?
Sure.
I know Cherie's was Michigan, Georgia.
Oh, Ooh, did you just say the orange? Syria? I tried not to. I didn't want to mention the Orange Bowl, but your boy over here did.
That was my least favorite game to watch.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, we'll talk about that in a second. But here's one of the things I want to talk about. I want to cover the transfer report. I want to talk about guys opting out. But also, I really want to talk about several bowls were actually canceled. The Hawaii Bowl was canceled. And this is really a shame because Memphis, they're going to play Hawaii. Memphis was already in Hawaii practicing for a week. And then I think it was the night before they announced that they couldn't do it because of COVID. So you had that one. Then you had the Military Bowl, Boston College, East Carolina, the Holiday Bowl, which is interesting.
One of my favorite bowls all the time, the Holiday Bowl.
Oh, interesting.
They always have a great game, the Holiday Bowl.
Well, here's the thing. It's really controversial now because apparently the athletic director at UCLA was not in communication with the athletic director from North Carolina State. Or there wasn't enough communication, right? Because that game was canceled 4 hours before. 4!
Can you imagine all those people traveling?
Dudes are in the stadium taping up right now. 4 hours before a game.
All those families traveled there. That's a shame.
It's tough. Fenway Bowl was canceled. And also the Arizona Bowl. And this is kind of something interesting. Barstool Sports, they actually took over the I want to say production in what am I looking for? The
broadcast?
Yeah, the broadcast. I'm sorry, the production. Yes, so that's to go. So this is gonna be a big deal for them. First year doing it, and all of a sudden it gets canceled. And they wound up playing, well, it was supposed to be Central Michigan and Boise State. So when they weren't going to play, it just so happens that the Sun Bowl, they were missing an opponent because whoever was going to play Washington State, they had to get out. So then you had Central Michigan going over to play in the Sun Bowl with like a 2-day.
I'm sorry, I was looking for it.
The Sun Bowl had them come out. So then you had Central Michigan, a MAC squad, against Washington State, Pac-12. So I think this is one of my biggest surprises. The Chippewas of Central Michigan actually beat a Power 5 Pac-12 team.
I know.
Granted, they're both 6-6, but still, I mean, that was actually huge. And for a team to actually do that, folks, I mean, there's a reason why there's a couple weeks, a month before bowl games, okay? You have a chance to prepare. You have a chance. So the fact that like a couple days before the game, Central Michigan actually goes over to actually play on the Sun Bowl. I mean, that's actually huge, and it kind of harkens back to the first season we had COVID, where there were a couple changes, like literally within a day or two. And at that point, I'm saying, you know what? These really aren't. It's not really fair to the kids, right? Because as you know, Phil, I mean, you have a game plan. You kind of practice against your set opponent for that week, and now you're going to say, "Oh, hey, let's throw everything out of the window. We have a day to prepare for these new teams." Now, people say, "Hey, that sounds great. Any team can play anybody." Well, they can't. I mean, there's a thing called the game plan.
You have to have preparation. That's why you get a week in football to prepare for your opponent, tendencies, matchups, where your strategy is going to be. You can't just, hey, tomorrow we're going to play this team.
Seriously, and that's really what it felt like. Kind of another big bowl for me was the Rose Bowl. I thought that was exciting. I don't know if you had a chance to see that.
Oh,
that was great. I had no idea Utah was that good. Although we had talked about them during our poll season, our poll reviews, but the fact that they literally had Ohio State on the ropes, and I really thought Utah was going to beat them, but that necessarily wasn't the case. So Ohio State wound up getting getting them.
Oh, that was an exciting showcase back and forth there. The Rose Bowl, Ohio State, the quarterback got knocked out.
Yep.
That's what ended up happening in that game for Utah. Just looking for it up here on the big board.
There you go.
Number 4 in the Super 16 Zorich poll.
Hey.
Right
then
Rose Bowl.
I think was another interesting bowl was the Alamo Bowl. Okay, so this was Oklahoma versus Oregon. And I kind of dubbed this the No Coach Bowl.
The No Coach Bowl.
The No Coach Bowl on the Super Bowl show. Right?
It was number 9 on your bowl rankings.
See?
Oregon,
and the damn coaches left.
All the coaches left.
So, I mean, come on.
Coaches
and then,
bounce.
Hold up now.
How come they can bounce, but ours can't?
Hey. Hey, here's my thing. I love Bob Stoops. Right? I think Bob Stoops is a great coach. My man hasn't coached since 2016. Now, I understand. Oh yes, I think that's something we will definitely talk about, Matt. Is the semifinal games, but I think that was a ceremonial position,
right?
When they brought in Bob Stoops, and then his kid is playing, and his kid actually wound up having a couple of good plays, but it's kind of like, really, like, are you not going to let your offensive coordinator, your defensive coordinator take over? I mean, I just kind of saw that and said, well, if I was an Oklahoma fan, if I was in Oklahoma, I'm sure I'd have a heart. I mean, everybody would be excited about it and say, hey, this is great. Bob Stoops is back. But I just thought that was kind of weird. And it was just unfortunate because you had these kids who wanted to play, had a chance to go to the bowl game, and the damn coach left. I mean, what is that, right? I mean, and that's something else we're going to allude to. I want to talk about a little later. There's another kind of bone to pick with another team was the Gator Bowl. Okay, so this one, you had Wake Forest, who had a great year. We actually talked about this on the show for a long time. They were going to play Texas A&M, which is going to be a really good opponent for them. And guess what? Texas A&M had COVID. So now they still want to play, which I think is great. They're looking around. They're looking around. Hey, who can we play? Who can we play? They get Rutgers.
Rutgers?
What the hell? Rutgers is 5-7. Those kids are at home. Now, I do have to say the reason why they wound up getting Rutgers was because they had the highest, basically the APR, which is kind of like your GPA for your football team. Mm-hmm. So apparently when you're 5-7, it defaults to your GPA.
Jesus.
I mean, again, is it fair now? Again,
false to your grade point average?
Hey man, they have to make a difference. Dude, you're 5-7. Right?
Damn.
So something has to happen. Something has to click here. And it's interesting because, again, you had a team that practiced for a week and a half, had some practices back at home, then had a chance to go out there for a week and do their thing. And, I mean, no one got seriously hurt, but wasn't an exciting game? Absolutely not. It just really wasn't. So I just think it was really unfair. And it's interesting because, and don't get me wrong, I mean, obviously COVID is a real serious issue, but you have a lot of other teams that were fine. So how is it that these other schools are doing well, yet we have some other schools that are having some COVID issues? I mean, man, it's COVID. Put your kids on lockdown. Don't let them do anything because there's a lot of money involved here. I mean, each team gets a payout. Some folks have a chance to get little bonuses, right? If you're a coach or whatever, you have a chance to get a bonus and stuff like that. And if that doesn't happen because you let Joey go out there and have a good time, Saturday night 2 weeks ago, man, put those kids on lockdown, man. They want to do this. They have this. Hopefully, they have the same goal that you have as the head coach. So you say, hey guys, you guys give me a week and a half. I'll make it worth your while, right? So and you can bring in some video games. I mean, you can bring in some great speakers. Dude, keep them inside. Lock them down. So you can have a chance to go play. So that's what's kind of frustrating for me is that you have a lot of schools, big or small, they were able to kind of get through the whole COVID thing, yet you have other schools who kind of fell by the wayside and had COVID kind of get into their team, and then you had folks who didn't have a chance to actually play. So that was kind of frustrating. And one last big game I kind of talked about, just happened recently, was the Baylor Ole Miss game, which was the Sugar Bowl. And great kid, Matt Corral, quarterback for Ole Miss, wound up not opting out. I'm telling you, this was a huge game for me. Wound up not opting out and was going to have a chance to actually play for his team. And he actually talked about that. He did like a little pregame thing where he kind of talked to the team and said, hey, this is what we're going to do. He wound up getting injured. I don't know if you had a chance to see that, Phil.
I wasn't able to watch the game, but I saw the highlights, and I love that kid. We've talked about him before. Mm-hmm. It's so unfortunate.
Great competitor. Now it was just, and they're not saying it was really serious. High ankle sprain, right? Mm-hmm. And when he came out of the locker room on the crutches, man, he started tearing up, man. He was crying because he wanted to be out there with his guys.
Meant something to him.
And,
It meant something to him.
Absolutely it did.
Like this guy.
Okay. And like that guy. And it just so happens that was my last game. And we had actually mentioned this our last bowl show, but we kind of talked about guys opting out and everything. And Nick from the bowl season, your boy from Connecticut, really kind of talked about how these games mean things to these kids. And he made a comment and said that, if you talk to these guys, I guarantee you they would all ask to play one more game, right? And that immediately made me think about kind of this photo and me. This is me on the sideline after we lost to number 1 Colorado by 1 point. And I had just realized that my college career was over. Wasn't thinking about going to the pros. All I was thinking about was my 4 years at Notre Dame, first year on the scout squad, helping guys try to be better. Second year, won a national championship. My junior year, we lost 1 game, and then had a chance to have a good senior year. But, I mean, that meant something to me. And so this is me bawling my eyes out after the game. But, I wanted to have Phil put this picture up because this is what it meant to me. I mean, we lost by 1 point. Obviously I was upset about that, but not to the point where I was in tears sobbing. And it's funny because I don't know if it was Jim Nance or it was somebody, a reporter came up to me and kind of was trying to talk to me. And I don't remember. I saw the video a couple times, but I remember I was just trying to sob and answer his questions. And I just wish I was more mature and I would have taken the mic and stuffed it down his throat because I'm being like, hey, man, just give me a minute, man. Give me a minute.
Let me get composed here.
But I just feel sorry for Matt Corral because he wanted to go out there and do the right thing, which kind of gives me a good segue into talking about folks who are opting out. Are there some games you want to talk about, Phil?
Well, the Pitt game comes to mind.
Perfect example.
Here's the quarterback sitting up in the booth watching it. Like, it left a bad taste in my mouth, to be honest. Why is this kid who's not playing, who we played all season with, he's not out there? The backup's out there. The backup gets hurt.
Yes.
He breaks his collarbone or whatever happened, something with his shoulder. Now the third stringer comes in and Pitt's, still in this game battling. What if you were there for your teammates? What if this is where I don't like, and some people are going to say, well, look at Corral. He was thinking about going to the NFL. Now he's hurt. Well, he's got a high ankle sprain.
Right. I mean,
part of football. It's not like he tore his ACL.
Right. However, you do have people who are in this situation. I mean, a perfect example is Jalen Smith, linebacker for Notre Dame.
Yes.
I forgot what bowl it was, but he went out there, did
that
it.
was against Ohio State, right?
Okay.
That was a big bowl game.
And it was tough, man. It was really, really tough. And that was a serious injury. I mean, it took a while for him to come back.
He had a sack yesterday against the Bears.
There
He
you go.
sacked Andy Dalton.
There we go. See?
But you're right. You know, how was his career? You know, for every one of those, though, Chris, let's just pause there and think about the kid, the senior that's never going to play again, but is out there busting their asses. He ain't going to the pros, but his guy that he protected all season long, he's a right guard, senior. He fucking can't. He's not going to get a shot. Right. And his boys up there in the booth calling plays with coach. See, it just didn't sit well.
It's tough, man. And here's the thing now. And these kids are different these days. I'm not going to say all of them, but a lot of them are going to say, well, you know, hey, he wants to get his money. I understand that. Okay, but
Michigan State versus Pitt.
When you're 50 years old, when your NFL career, you know, average career is 3.2 years, when your NFL career is over, you know, when you get back with your college guys, I mean, what's that feeling, right? I mean, they wound up losing by 10 points, which, you know, as you said, they were in the game. So
they were winning.
Had he been in there, they would have won, right?
I believe so.
And so you have this, you know, this 10, 15 year, 20-year reunion. You know, these guys have obviously moved on, but when you get back and you're like, dude, what happened, man? Oh, well, you know, I had to get my money. That's bullshit. Come on, man.
Come on, man.
I mean, so that's
quarterback.
Now,
quarterback.
Here's the thing. No, it's. I totally understand it, right? Because you have a kid who's trying to protect himself, right? And this is where it becomes hard, right? Because I don't know. Had I not, I mean, I obviously had a choice, but I mean, I don't know. I'm thinking I would have played, but you know, I mean, dude, my mom was at the house. You know, we were receiving $120 a month, $160 a month for public aid. You know, now all of a sudden, you know, I have a chance to make millions of dollars. Do I risk that? You know, helping my mom and stuff. So I can kind of see both sides. But as an old fart, when you get older, all of a sudden these college games like mean stuff to you. You know, you go back and go, oh yeah, well, I wish I could have, would have. You know, so that's the hard part.
I agree with you, though. I just think, especially as a quarterback, Pitt, your number, what was it? Sixth.
Yes.
Sixth bowl, the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl.
There you go.
You know, our guy, Mel Tucker, ends up winning that, but it could have been a different story had that quarterback played. And I just think the other thing is, it's like quarterbacks that don't throw at the combine. I always think that's dumb. It's like, I don't give a crap if you don't know the receivers or whatever. You've been throwing the football your whole life. Just go out there and throw it. They get it. The receiver timing isn't going to be there. It ain't going to hinder. I want to see your release. I want to see your footwork. That stuff matters more. In this, I want to see you finish out your season and be a great leader and teammate. To me, that's a negative in Pickett's corner, in my opinion. But
well, and it's interesting you say that, because now, you know, if I had a choice between, let's say the talent was even between the Pitt quarterback and the guy from Ole Miss, you know, I'm going with the guy who was crying on the sideline, wanting to be with his boys.
Exactly.
Right. I mean, who took that risk and was out there balling out. I mean, he was running, he was doing everything, right? I mean,
yeah.
You know, but he wanted to win, and that's important when you're 19, 20 years old. And again, I'm saying this, having had a chance to play in the pros and had a great run and enjoyed it. But, you know, I'm the old guy that's going back now, going back to the school, going back to the reunions, seeing my old guys, and, you know, it means something.
Right. Got to be more passion, like D-Rock Irish is saying.
See? That is very sad, D-Rock. You're right. And here's the thing, though. It wasn't just great players, right? It wasn't just the quarterbacks or the running backs that are opting out. Dude, there were a ton of people opting out. I mean, some of these guys, only like sophomores and juniors were playing for some of these games. I mean, these announcers were like, this is Joe Johnson, number 20, hadn't seen him all year because, but everybody opted out.
Digging in the crates.
Phil, but here's the thing. You know this. There's only 32 damn NFL teams. There's 53 guys. I think they increased the practice squads to maybe 12 now or something like that. Mm-hmm. So even if you include those guys, let's just say there's 70 guys on the team. 70 times 32. I'm not that smart, but you got that math. Chances are you're not going to make it. Flat out.
70
it's a very
times
small percentage.
32. What is that number?
It's a very small percentage.
It's 1,000,000 to 1.
Okay. So, I mean, it's a very small percentage.
2,240 players in the NFL.
Now, and we aren't even talking about, like, that's
injured
a yearly
reserve.
Turnover. Well, no, but think about it. I mean, we're talking about 2,000 players. All 2,000 of them, they don't all get cut, and there's a brand new set there. So how many per team, right? What are we going to say, 12 per team?
Think about it.
12 spots per team?
Yeah, could be. They'll bring 90 guys to camp, and then they cut down. Yep, then they're cutting down.
I mean, I remember when I was a rookie, like no one would talk to me. None of the vets on the D line. I mean, obviously had some like Richard Dent. I mean, he would shoot the shit with me and William Perry, stuff like that. But the younger, like the guys who've been there for 3 or 4 years, no, because I'm vying for their spot. I'm taking money out of their pocket to pay their mortgage to feed their kids.
Who was there? Carl Simpson?
He was younger than Carl was there. Fontenot. We had Tim Ryan, who's now doing color for I think the Raiders.
Oh,
maybe?
Tim Ryan.
Yeah.
Tim Ryan. From USC.
Yes. Trace was there. Trace Armstrong was there. There were a bunch of guys there, but
Albert Fontenot?
Yeah.
Albert
Lonzo Spellman? I mean, there were a whole bunch of guys there. Yeah. So the idea that, I mean, not everybody makes it, but you had I'm pretty sure you had probably on average maybe 10, 15 starters. Man, maybe 15 might be, maybe 10 per team opting out.
That's crazy.
I mean, you're opting out. And then some guys were opting out to go to transfer portal, which is our next topic that we will just smooth over right quick. I just sent you this thing about Caleb Williams. Bro.
I got to try to pull that off of your...
I mean...
I could read it.
Please do.
Where is it? Caleb Williams, Oklahoma, quarterback, is announcing today that he's considering staying with the Sooners despite the move, but he wants to hear offers from other schools. It's like he's a free agent. Do you got a better offer for me?
There you go.
This is a different move. I thought once you declared portal, you're gone.
Well,
but this kid's like throwing his bobber into the lake.
Here's the thing. Officially, he didn't submit the thing as of when I sent you that text. Okay. So the question becomes, so he wrote a little thing saying, hey, I want to see what my options are. I'm going to listen to people. Here's the thing. When I was the athletic director at Chicago State, it was a couple of years ago, we had kids enter the transfer portal there. Now, Chicago State, at that point, we were the worst in the WAC. Okay, so you jump in the transfer portal, I'm like, where are you going, bro? Because no one wants, I mean, dude, we're last in our conference. Is that really going to work out for you? But anyway, my policy was, and I talked to both our women's and men's head coach about this, basketball coaches about this, was if the kid commits, he's done with us, right? Now, if he's injured, yes, we will obviously assist him in his training. I mean, we're not going to let the kid, be injured and not help him. But as far as being with the team and come to meetings, no, dude, you're gone.
If you've signed yourself to the portal, you're out.
Right. You want out, right?
Right. Exactly. That's
But it's
what you
kind
would
of
think.
interesting because the athletic director and the new head coach for Oklahoma, they came out with a statement and said that, hey, we understand kind of Caleb Williams' situation, and we're going to support him as much as we can through the NIL and everything else, and let's kind of wait and see what he's going to do. And I thought that was really interesting because he's leaving kind of the door open, but in that sense, like, would I want you back? Like, okay, you know what? At some point, I got to be a good coach. Now, this is obviously the reason why I couldn't be a head coach right in college, because if you say you want to dip out, all right, I got to move on. I got to find the next man up. I can't have you do this wishy-washy thing. Well, hey, Arizona State's going to offer me a little more in the NIL, or
Right.
I have they have better housing for me. I mean, what? Come on, look. If you jump in the portal, you're out. In my eyes.
I agree with you. Let's get into these situations, though. Let's start off with this one right here. Cincinnati.
Lordy.
Versus Alabama. Did Cincinnati get a wake-up call playing Alabama?
Phil, all year, bro. And I got the crap beat out. My boys, the guys I played with, on the team, they were like, man, you should give them a chance. Look, I'm being honest, man. In this whole kind of ESPN bias for Cincinnati was just, I was appalled. They went to Cincinnati and they were playing Tulsa at the time, Tulsa was like 2-7 or something like that. They're hyping them up. There were some guys in ESPN talking about how great. I want to see what they have. A great. Their defensive backfield is great. They're going to shut them down. All right. At the end of the day, Luke Fickell did an amazing job this year. Absolutely amazing job. Lightning in the bottle. This will never happen for him again, I think. Okay, so he should, like, his agent should be able to, like, get him out of there. Get him to Power 5, but all the jobs are taken now. So unless somebody's about to get fired, Luke's probably going to be there next year, right? But here's the thing. Cincinnati, a bunch of regional guys. You look at the roster, everybody's from Ohio. You got maybe about, maybe 15%, 25%. They're not from the state of Ohio. But all the folks that are from Ohio are from the area. There's a regional team, and guess what? If you were that good, you'd have went to Ohio State or Michigan.
Exactly. So
you ended up and you kind of, had to settle for Cincinnati. Again, that's cool. You guys are in the American Conference. You guys, lightning in the bottle, great year. I understand David and Goliath, that whole concept. But the whole David and Goliath thing has to be like, it would be Vanderbilt, who's in the SEC, has a chance to recruit some big guys as well. They play Alabama and win. Okay, we're not talking about the American Conference.
Exactly.
Who's not even in the Power 5, having a chance to kind of be that. And again, God bless Luke Fickell. I think he did a phenomenal job. He would be my number. As a matter of fact, so when we were talking about on air, when Brian Kelly left, who was the first guy I said that Notre Dame should go after?
Fickell.
Luke Fickell. I didn't even say my.
I thought it was going to be a slam dunk, actually. I was with you. I'm like, oh, this is definitely happening. Fickell's going to be the new head coach of the Irish. But listen, didn't happen. I believe they got outclassed with the talent and outcoached. And listen, Alabama looks like the contenders right now. Georgia versus Michigan. Our guy, Coach Harbaugh, they came to play too. So obviously that game I turned off in the middle of the third quarter. I was like, Chris, I can't watch it no more.
Was rough.
Because I was like, oh my God. then I put it back on, to be perfectly honest. But I did do a shut off of the TV. You ever get so mad?
Oh yeah.
You just turned it off. And I was only because I'm not, I'm rooting for Harbaugh and
Sure.
Michigan. I want to see them. I wanted to see Michigan, Alabama so bad.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where my rooting interest was. But I turned the game off because I was just so disappointed in the performance in and above itself and of the players and everything. So Georgia, to their credit, did everything that could go right. Georgia had everything. Quarterback's about to get sacked. He stumbles forward and finds a crease, and he's going. It just everything went right. Georgia is dominant though. So now,
and you were able to see it, and I think it was interesting because poor Hutchinson, who I think is a great player.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of pressure on this kid, right? Because he was fourth in the Heisman. He comes in, and ESPN talking about he might be the first person picked in the NFL draft. First person.
I don't know about that.
I mean, let's not tell number. I don't know what number what the offensive tackle was, but let's not tell that offensive tackle that he that dominated in that game.
First of all, number 31 for Alabama is a better football player. In regards to me analyzing tape, I would have him if we were going to rank the two players as edge players. And we're going to get into this on our network, Draft Mob, but I'm sure we'll be debating this stuff all off season. But to me, the kid from Alabama is a better all-around rusher, physical athlete, all of that, where Hutchinson is a great football player and he's going to be great in the NFL. But it's like Khalil Mack and Ryan Kerrigan. If people could see those two. Ryan Kerrigan is a good sack guy. Khalil Mack does everything.
Well, and then you also have to throw in Thibodeau from Oregon.
Oh, yeah. Thibodeau's going to be
killing people. Killing folks.
Thibodeau is going to be something special, too.
So it's kind of...
Before we... Obviously, real quick, the two best teams we both agree are now meeting for what we're going to be covering next Monday night, pre-game and post-game.
Yes.
Me and Chris Zorich, maybe we'll have on some guests, analysts, just like we do on BHL. We're going to be doing it BHL style right after the national championship. Monday night, next Monday night, we'll be live. We'll go pre-game show, and then we'll do a post-game. I'll let Chris do the rant as he gets fired up after Georgia, Alabama. And Bullets is predicting Georgia's going to save your predictions for the end of the show. Chris, you agree, though. Those are the two.
By far. I mean, yeah. and we talked about this all year. I was so impressed with Georgia's defense, and I think at that point they hadn't allowed it was like the smallest points available since like the 40s or something like that. I mean, they were so dominant. That's why I was so surprised and just shocked. My mouth was open when Alabama just absolutely just rolled on them. I mean, I just couldn't.
Oh my God, I couldn't.
That was just amazing. That was absolutely amazing. So
Georgia's gonna have that Rocky Balboa vibe.
Of course, absolutely, of course.
And
it's so hard. It's so hard to beat a team twice in a year. I mean, everybody knows that. It's just hard. And then you have Alabama, who we had ranked number one all year until they had the hiccup, and at one point it was 1A and 1B I was talking about. You remember? Alabama won, Georgia 1A, and then all of a sudden they lost. Georgia was dominating. Boom, Georgia took over. So I think it's going to be an exciting game. I think it's going to be. I don't know if it's going to be a repeat of what we saw in the SEC or the SEC championship game, But for a lot of folks, and this is a chance to see some really, really good football. Really good.
Where do they play the national championship?
They play it in Lucas Oil Stadium, which is in Indy.
Will you be going to that game?
I will not be going because I will be in the garage talking to you about the game. So it'd be kind of hard for me to go to the game.
Well, then you run back like me. I was sprinting from Soldier Field back
to the parking lot.
Phil, this is your day. Chris, we gotta talk about this here. Marcus Freeman's debut. You did have it as your number 5 bowl, showing your unbiased, but here they are. Notre Dame, Marcus Freeman's first bowl, first game. It's kind of unfair, though, to judge the coach as an entirety. I know people are saying about his recruiting. Recruiting is still going on. Am I right?
That is correct. I think
not over yet.
No, there's one more signing period. I think it's right around the All-American game or something like that.
Right.
So
they had some.
Bullets. I'm with you, man. I want to skip the segment as much as you do. Believe me. But as we talk about here, the tape never lies. And here's the thing: before we talk about that, that was a terrible game.
They were
let's kind of
doing so well in the first half.
Well, but even with that, let's take into consideration what happened, right? So you get a coach that walks out on the team, right, 2 weeks beforehand.
Truth.
There's, issues within the locker room about, hey, this guy was our leader. My parents talked to him. I talked to him. He leaves in the middle of the night with a 3-minute, no question, thing to the whole team. And there's a couple kids. And it's interesting because what Notre Dame did, they didn't allow any media to talk to the kids. But there's a couple guys that have a podcast. And they went out to the podcast right after it was announced. And they kind of talked about it, and a couple of them were like, hey, he's going to get the money. We understand. But there's a couple of guys who are like, I think he's going to tear up. This is a tough situation for him. He was in there and out of there. So that's really hard for a team. So then you have a couple of days where, hey, well, what's going on here? What's going on there? In the meantime, you got Oklahoma State knowing what they're going to do. They're practicing for a Notre Dame team that they've never played before, and they have a chance to kind of show what they should have done in the Big 12 championship game, which is win. So they have their own motivation. And, oh, by the way, their defense was ranked second in the country behind Georgia. Okay, so let's really be honest here, right? So, it was going to be a challenge even if they didn't lose a head coach for Notre Dame. So now all that stuff goes on. Boom, they find a coach. They announce that they hire him. All the kids loving on him. And, oh, by the way, we have to play a game. And, who's going to leave as coaches? We got some coaches that are going to leave, some coaches that are going to stay. How hard? What is it going to do to this team? It's really hard. These kids went through a lot. All that to say, I'm sorry, go ahead.
You're not making excuses, though. You're just giving.
These are facts.
The facts, the scenario of what it was that was going on. But let me ask you this. What was Marcus calling the defense? Or was he taking the role of head coach?
My understanding from what I did not talk to him. I just was reading a lot of stuff and kind of hearing what they were saying on the telecast. He was kind of doing the head coach thing, talking to Tommy Rees, offensive coordinator, talking about those plays. And at the time, Mike Elston, who's the defensive line coach, he took over as the defensive coordinator. Okay. So, was it the best scenario? No. And then I think toward the end, you saw him grab a mic, and I think he was kind of talking a little bit more, trying to implement some of the defense that he wanted. But for a first game for a head coach, think about it. He wasn't going up against a slouch either. Mike Gundy is a good coach. I mean,
Right.
they had a comparison. It was he coached 218 games as a head coach, and this was Marcus's first game. Okay, so I am a firm believer that a lot of college coaching is the head coach. And when you get a guy that just walks in, I mean, would it have been a great story? Absolutely, it would have been a great story. Oh my God, the players playing in the Parker Street.
They were up 28-7.
Yes. And then you got to think about, okay, are we going to fall back into what we've done in the past, which is at Notre Dame, we get a lead and we're okay. I mean, I've been talking about this for years about how Notre Dame just does not keep the boot on a dude's neck and score points. I think we talked about that against Georgia Tech, and I think another team, forgot who it was, where they either shut out or they put up 50 points on them.
Right.
40 points on them.
They have not had that culture where you're just blowing someone out of the building.
And keep on doing it, right? So that's something that they have to get over. Now, as far as the game goes, that first half I thought was amazing. And then you had a experienced coach go in the locker room with an experienced staff, make some changes, and you would have thought Notre Dame, hey, you know what? We're up 28. We're good.
Right. They got comfortable.
Very.
And that's when the head coach has to get those reins back in, reel everyone back in. I've been in that situation, and luckily we were able to pull it out. But listen, I think my dad said it best. He's like, I think this guy's going to learn a lot from this moment.
Sure.
And now you go on from there. That can't be the story. It's unfair. And we'll see how they recruit. Will they go after this kid Williams from Oklahoma?
It's really interesting because as of the last time they talked about the transfer portal, this is Notre Dame, they talked about how they wanted grad transfers only. Brian Kelly said this, and he said that, we want guys who have seen the lights. We want guys who understand, and we also want guys who are mature. So I don't know what that means. I don't know if that policy is going to.
Brian Kelly,
right,
who left in the middle of the night. But again, you've been around this culture there at Notre Dame, how they handle the student athlete, how they handle football. Football, listen, nobody thinks about Notre Dame's academics in the East Coast.
Right.
When you hear Notre Dame, we ain't thinking about their girls basketball team, which is very good.
Which I was going to say, which actually won 2 national championships.
Yeah, which are very good. Everybody synonymous with Notre Dame is football.
Right.
Until they get that, then they have to start. They have to start, say, getting some of these talented football players like a Williams there at a position of quarterback. I just think it makes a hell of a lot of sense for Notre Dame. Hopefully they get involved. I mean, me and you saw this kid and some of the things he's able to do, especially with the Heisman. You knew how I felt about Rattler.
Right.
I just felt like watching that documentary. I'm like, Spencer Rattler is the kind of guy that folds.
Sure.
Once, he talent, but he's arrogant. And once you get popped in the nose, arrogance leaves. How are you going to step up? Your whole crowd was chanting for Caleb Williams.
Right.
Right. So we'll see on that. Hopefully, it's going to be interesting how Marcus Freeman's culture versus Brian Kelly's culture.
Right. Well, and then here's another
12
thing.
years. 12.
Exactly.
12 years. And he leaves in the middle of the night. I had to say something.
Well, but you also have to think about, I mean, how many guys have you heard who were underclassmen that actually, who were in the transfer portal that went to Notre Dame? You haven't heard it, right? Because they have this grad transfer policy. But even in the past, I mean, people don't transfer to Notre Dame often.
Right.
Okay. So now you got to think about, okay, if they do say, hey, you know what, let's get into the transfer portal game. You talk about undergrads. I mean, how is that going to shake up the academic part, right? Because now you're talking about kids who originally maybe weren't able to get into Notre Dame. Now they're going to all of a sudden transfer to Notre Dame because they're a good athlete. That's not going to work.
You got your grades up in college, bro. You get those electives. You got all A's. He's got a 3.0. What are you talking
there you
about?
go. Right, exactly.
Sewing, taekwondo.
Well, and it's going to have to take. Well, but it's going to have to take a conversation, because if they want to succeed, I mean, look, the perfect example.
That would be the greatest slap in Kelly's face, though, because he went to LSU and smacked Notre Dame. Like, we want real athletes, basically. I don't want to deal with the academic fences that Notre Dame puts up. So Notre Dame then turns around and says, well, Marcus steps to the front and says, listen, we got to open up this transfer portal and get the best players possible. They're proven. Yeah. He probably, I don't even know. Do they still do the SAT for
some schools do, yeah. I don't know if Notre Dame does.
So, well, okay, he scored a 800 on his SAT when he was a senior in high school. He's 2 years at Alabama, wants to transfer to Notre Dame, and he's got all A's. Well, what were his no, he's got all A's. Don't worry about what he took.
Right.
Let's get him in here and help this football program. And that's unfortunately how this is set up, because there is no minor league for the NFL, and football is America's game. So it'll be interesting. Berlissimo had a question for us. I want to see your answer. I know my answer is the kid from Bama. When he's set back 95 yards and he has to drive down to win, and he continues to make these throws and play, I'm like, this kid is the most mature freshman quarterback I've ever seen in my life. I don't remember the last time I've seen that. So the edge for me, I like the kid Stroud, right? From Ohio State. Yep. I like him, but I think Young is better from Bama. What about you?
We were sold on both of them. I mean, there were times when we talked about Young, we talked about Stroud, and it was amazing because at one point Ohio State had both him and the running back who's a freshman in, and they were just balling. We're like, oh my God, like what's going to happen like year 2, year 3 for Ohio State? It gets crazy. But we also loved what Bryce Young did for Alabama. And I think one of the things that was so interesting, I loved about him was that he was so calm and collected.
Yeah.
Like he was, I mean,
unshakable.
They were down. At one point, it was the second or third overtime in the Iron Bowl, and he wasn't freaking out. It was 4th and something.
Oh my God!
And he wanted to throw it to one of the receivers, and they caught him. It was a first down. They wound up winning after that. Maybe it was the touchdown. I think it was the first. I'm not sure which one it was. But again, and this kid's a sophomore. I mean, he sat and waited behind Mac Jones, who we both love. But it's just so interesting how when you look at quarterbacks and their maturity, you get someone like that who's not, granted, he's not the first one down there high-fiving everybody, but
no, he doesn't have that. That's what Stroud, the Ohio State kid, has a little bit of a arrogance to him. The other kid just has a steady,
it's amazing,
steady, straight
absolutely
thing. Amazing. So that's where I give him. That matters to me. I want a little swagger in a quarterback, but I don't want too much. So I look at that kind of personality trait. Is it within the body of the game and the embodiment of, like, the emotion should come within the game? Like, you throw a big touchdown, do whatever you want.
Right.
I'm not going to check off a grade. It's that moment on the sideline where you're like, yeah, what? Check this. Who's this guy? Who's this guy? No,
right.
Your left tackle, if he didn't block, that guy's on the ground. That kind of stuff just matters to me when I'm scouting and analyzing talent. Again, I don't have the Ryan Pace Camry to check out Mr. Mitch Trubisky. I only could imagine how many players I would have crossed off the list if we were able to sit down and meet with them. And me and you might be able to be doing that, Chris.
Yeah.
As we announce later, hopefully there will be some future All-Americans coming on the show with me and Chris Zorich. That's a little teaser. We're working out the details of that. But
yes, we are. Eventually. More to come.
More to come. Now,
go ahead.
You had something else you wanted to?
No, go ahead.
I was just setting it up. I wanted to show this to you right here. Shane, the smartest man, asked me to read this to you. This is from an NFL data analyst, Harrison P. Kent. Jerry Rice, who laughably ran a 4.740, would be a practice squad player in today's NFL. A prime Rice, my algorithms suggest, would be the 193rd most effective wide receiver today. Rice, enabled by coach and QB talent, was somewhat effective in his day, but today's wide receivers are a different breed.
Well, it's the intangibles, right? I mean, it is flat out the reason why. I mean, I didn't come into Notre Dame thinking I was going to be all world. I didn't even know if I was going to play, but I wasn't tall. I was fast for my size. I wasn't a big guy. There were guys that were 6'6", 6'5", right, who were playing on the defensive line. It's those intangibles. And so those are the things that you have to be careful of when you are making those draft selections and saying, well, hey, and I think I read somewhere that Alabama, you look at all of the guys who've been drafted by Alabama, they are the stereotypical size, weight, and height for those players. Like,
I think he loses us.
Offensive tackle.
I think he was somewhat effective in his day.
Well,
that
sure
sentence.
He's being sarcastic.
No, he's not.
Yes, he is.
I think this guy is going on some algorithm analytics of stats, and that's where these guys. Jerry Rice ran a 4.3 on game days. That's the difference, Chris. And when you have those intangibles, as Chris is pointing out to you, Jerry Rice was the greatest receiver all time. Maybe you can argue Randy Moss. You can get into a debate, but it's hard to argue what Jerry Rice was able to do consistently. This guy was playing until he was 40. He was playing and still was a top 3 player on the football field. These nerds just drive me insane, Chris, with these algorithms. The only algorithm in football is the heartbeat. What is it?
Boom, right, exactly.
Boom, boom.
What is your, yes, exactly.
Chris Zorich, I know you don't like to talk about it. You were a 3-time All-American. You were on the All-Madden team. Now, this week, we lost a legend, an icon, my broadcasting idol. Like, I would fall asleep to his voice as a little boy, and then I grew into loving the game like my son is now, listening to him break down the play and the count. You got a counter here, and it was just as I called it. He was a Picasso and a paint by numbers. He did it for the fans better. Sure. But how big of an honor was it for you when he selected you on the All-Madden team?
So I was very fortunate. I had a chance to be selected to his 10th anniversary All-Madden team in 1993. And that was just, you grew up, as you mentioned, I grew up when I did watch football, it was circle this and arrow there and bump it out and do all this stuff. And that was, it like made it fun. Yeah. And so then you add the fact that the type of coach that he was, what he liked was the guy who didn't have the stats, right? Who wasn't 6'5" and was a all-pro person. He wanted the guy who was like the 5'10" running back who I think Ironhead Hayward may have even been on one of his All Madden teams. I mean, and here you have a guy who definitely was not the stereotypical running back, right? But he was there and he gave 100%. And I think that's what kind of sums up what Madden liked was guys who may not have had who may have gotten
here.
Exactly. As you mentioned before, it's the heart.
It was the heart.
And
he said it. Did you see the documentary?
I did not. I have to, though.
Oh, my God,
awesome.
Chris.
Everybody said it was awesome.
It's so good. I cried. I got emotional. I really got emotional because, listen, when I say I love John Madden, I mean, I loved John Madden. Nobody, no Raiders fan or team was ever chanting fire Madden. I'll tell you that. And the whole story that they do tell is very much, and I was thinking about you when I was watching it because I know you embodied what he looked for and appreciated. I just remember being a fan of yours, and I was talking to my wife about this last week when me and you were just shooting the shit, talking about life. You know, you've become a friend and a brother, and I'm so proud to have you on the network because of the integrity and the empathy that you have. So I'm sitting there talking to my wife. She's like, who are you talking? I was like, oh, I was talking to Chris. And she was thinking of my other friend, Chris, with a K, which is weird. And I go, no, Zorich. She's like, oh, my God. And then we just got into a conversation about John Madden and how you were selected. And she's like, it's so crazy that you grew up a fan of Chris Zorich. And now you're sitting there talking about movies and Boba Fett and this and that with Chris about life. So it is an amazing showcase of where we've gotten to in our lifetime. And John Madden was a piece of that because I specifically remember you being named to the All Madden team was a moment for me as a Bears fan, but also as a fan of you. Because I was like, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. This fucking guy plays with heart all the time. Pardon my language.
That's okay.
But that's what I was saying as a young man back in the day. And I think we do have some evidence of this All Madden thing, Cherie. I'm trying to get it uploaded here.
Well, I got the better version.
Do you have something? Yes, I do. Look at this. Let's show it.
So this is actually, I don't know if you can kind of see.
Oh, yeah.
So that's the actual award. So what I did was I sent you that photo, Phil.
I'm putting it up as we speak.
So, and this says, it says 10th anniversary, 1993 All Madden team, Chris Zorich, Chicago Bears. And this, I had a chance to be an alternate for the Pro Bowl. That was awesome. But like, this is one of the most prized possessions that I have because of exactly what we talked about, Phil. And the idea of what it stood for. And that just so happened to be the same year that we shut down Barry Sanders on Thanksgiving, where Madden passed out the turkey legs,
the turducken
defensive line.
There it is.
Go. So that, and I
all
think
Madden.
that picture because that picture kind of sums up like what he liked about look at it. I'm dirty, jersey ripped,
those arms
pissed off.
Champion jersey. I forgot the champion, the 75th anniversary patch.
There you go.
Look at that.
And I just thought it was so cool because here's a kid kind of really. I feel as though it's kind of like what you're talking about, Phil. I mean, as a fan, you're growing up watching Madden, having a chance to just be in the league, one, but then also having a chance to be selected by him. And as we talked about, there's 2,000 players.
Wait till you see how he literally, they go into a little bit, it's not long, how he sits down and goes through and selects these people. And Lawrence Taylor talks about, forget all pro. I just want everybody in the league just wanted to be all Madden. That was it. It is so. I told my wife because she's like, I wanted to watch it with you. I go, I'm watching it again. Are you kidding me? It was so good. John Madden. There needs to be a movie about him and Walter Payton. I know he didn't get to talk much about Payton in it, but I know how much he loved Walter Payton, and I quoted him as what he said when he passed. And I said it here before. I'll say it again as we are coming to the conclusion of this show. John Madden's quote, and he said it more than once for me, was, football is better when the Chicago Bears are winning. And it's the unbiased of Madden, because he was a Raider, and they tell that story, and it's great. And I didn't know some of the stuff that John did. It's really good. But I remember him specifically saying that, and it resonated so strongly with me, and every Bears fan should understand that truth. And for you to be named all Madden, I think, especially when we know the popularity contest of all pro.
Sure, right.
Roquan Smith deserves to be an all pro.
Right.
And that's not me being biased towards the Bears. I'm just watching film. He's one of the best, if not the best, inside backer in what he's able to do on Sundays. For Madden, he really put the time into it. He was proud of that. And it is something I think you should be proud of, and our fans of you, and every fan of you should remember that you were all Madden. 1993. It was amazing. I think because you were smaller, shorter, but you played with tenacity and toughness every time you went out there, and what we talked about, that heart.
Sure.
That's what made you great, man.
I appreciate it.
I'm a bigger fan of you now.
Well, that's because I'm paying you. That's because I'm paying you thousands of dollars to produce this show. That's why.
Chris, we're going to be back next week, next Monday night.
Yes, we are.
Pre-game, post-game.
Pre-game starts at 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern, because the game is at 7 p.m. Central. Yes.
Me and Chris will be on here.
Hour before the show, kind of going over what's going to happen, what we think is going to happen. Questions. We may have a guest or two. Would be nice.
A surprise. Certain coach from Notre Dame. I don't know. Maybe.
Wow. That's a lot of pressure, bro. That is a lot of pressure.
Former tight end Irv Smith, maybe?
Was random. Okay.
I'm trying to. Mark Bavaro, did he play with you, or was he before you?
Okay, I'm 52, not 59, but okay. No offense, Mark. I'm not that old, bro.
I met Mark Bavaro in Rhode Island. He bought me an ice cream. I'll never forget it, because I was the only. Camp? No, in Rhode Island. We were in the summer. He was vacationing.
Okay.
And there's this spot right now. Taylor Swift lives in this house up on the hill.
Okay.
And this beach area is one of the most beautiful beaches on the East Coast. Anyway, there's a carousel. It's the oldest carousel on the East Coast.
Okay.
It's on this corner, and there's ice cream and a little fish and chip shop,
Okay.
And I'm going there. I swear to God, this giant dude comes walking out with his hair, and I go, it's Mark Bavaro.
How did you know it was him?
It was a beautiful woman with him, because I'm a sicko for football.
My God.
I remembered his face. I was like 11 or 10.
That's awesome. That's amazing.
And I go, Mark Bavaro. And he's like, he didn't say anything. He just went like that, acknowledged it. Yep, you caught me, type of thing. And he's like, what do you want? What do you want?
Aww.
I go, he bought me and my buddy ice cream, like big cones.
Oh, hey, a double scoop, huh?
Triple scoop. But that's my Mark Bavaro story.
Thanks.
I didn't get his autograph. I wasn't an autograph guy. Never was. I would get them for other people. Like, here, can you sign this for my buddy? I just never did. I'm pissed because I met a lot of amazing.
Yeah, but having said that, relationship and shaking a hand and actually having a conversation is more than
Yeah.
Whether or not, because he had this great story to talk about how when you're 11, Mark Bavard thought was a giant buying some ice cream versus, hey, I got this piece of paper that he signed.
Exactly.
That's absolutely, it really doesn't mean anything.
Well, next week, we don't know. Chris will surprise us with some guests. We'll have a lot to
Mark
talk
Bavaro,
about.
but
Not Mark Bavaro.
No, exactly.
Reminisce.
Wow.
What's your go-to ice cream, real quick?
Right, exactly. I mean,
No, what do you like, Chris?
That's so random. Neapolitan.
Neapolitan?
Yes, exactly.
Holy, talk about random.
Okay, the ice cream question was random.
I know. I have to throw things. We bring it together, man. People want to know.
All right.
Tomorrow there'll be like 7 cartons of Neapolitan.
Yeah, my door right melting. Oh no, it's not. It wouldn't be melting because it's so damn cold here in Chicago.
Yes, it's cold here. We'll be back though next week, 6
p.m.
East.
Central. You don't even do you even think Central? I've learned this about people from the East Coast. They don't care what other time zone. They only care about East Coast. They care about nothing.
Starts with the East Coast.
See, there we go. See,
I'm rocking the East Coast right here, kid.
Wow.
Biggie.
Wow.
Biggie the best. East Coast time is where like TV starts. See? Think about it. Remember Different Strokes? You guys were watching that at 7. We were watching that at 8. I was like, what you talking about?
How does that work? Are they in the future?
Exactly.
Okay. Yes.
We'll be back next week breaking down the national championship. He's Chris Zorich. Make sure you follow and subscribe to his podcast, his YouTube channel, Christopher Zorich on YouTube. You might be watching it on his YouTube channel right now. Leave a subscribe. Subscribe to his YouTube channel. If you're a TTNL fan and you're just finding this show, you're on our Keeping It 100 Facebook page or our Twitter. Follow Chris Zorich on Twitter, Facebook. Do it all. He's a great, great follow. And we're going to be having a lot of shows with Chris. I'm going to be dragging him into some film room sessions with some of these draft players. You can follow his channel right there. YouTube.com, Chris Zorich 50.
Yes,
Cherie, doing a great job.
Thank you, Cherie. Sorry about Michigan, Cherie, but thank you.
No worries. She's surviving. She's hoping Jim steps into her professional life.
How nice would that be?
Dude, we will go live right away to talk about that if that happens. I'll tell you that because I will be in heaven, football heaven. Thought I was getting there with 2 tackles. I'll be getting to another stage of heaven with Jim Harbaugh. Anyway, next week, I'm excited. This has been a little review of all the bowls, talking some football, transfer portals, Notre Dame.
We covered
everything.
Man.
We covered it all.
Opt-outs. Everything, man.
I had a great time. Now I got to go pick up my daughter from work. That's going to be fun. But I'm going to leave you with this new graphic that I did. This has been a special presentation of TTNL, the Tape Never Lies Network. Oh, that's sick.
That's
test
fire,
driving
man.
it here.
Fire. That's fire,
test
man.
driving it here on the Zorich.
I love it. That's fire.
There we go. But we always end our show like this. Chris, for Chris Zorich, I'm your boy, Draft Dr. Phil of the Tape Never Lies. Chris Zorich, follow him, like, and subscribe to this show and the channel. God bless you. We'll see you next week when the national championship game. Damn, then no more college football.
Oh my Lord. I don't know what I'm going to do, man.
We'll be covering the combine. Don't worry. We'll get you.
And drafting. We're doing everything.
Thanks for watching the Super 16 Poll Show with Chris Zorich. Like, subscribe, and comment. This has been a special presentation of the Tape Never Lies Network. Performance over politics.